are you? My name's Dave, and I'll be your soil instructor for these next couple of videos on soil. I've been working with soils my entire life. In graduate school, I studied soil fertility, and then I got a job with the Soil Conservation Service, and who later got the name changed to the Natural Resources Conservation. So I've been dealing with soils, soil interpretations my entire life. In this video, I want to give you an idea how important soils are for growing food and fiber. So we're going to do a little experiment, or actually a demonstration, on Earth as an apple. Let's just assume that this apple is the Earth. So can we grow food or fiber on the entire Earth? And the answer, of course, is no, because we have oceans. Can you tell me how much of the Earth is covered by oceans? I'll give you a second. Maybe ask the person right next to you. Well, the answer is 75%. About 75% of the Earth is covered by water. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 75% of the Earth and we're going to get rid of it. So can we grow soil, or can we grow food on all the rest of this 1/4 of the Earth? And of course the answer is no. So we have polar areas, polar ice caps, mountains, deserts, soil steep stuff. So half of this quarter is going to be that stuff, so we have to get rid of it. So now what we have is we have a 1/8. Can we grow food on all of this 1/8? And the answer still is no, because we have parking lots, cities that are built on prime farmland soils. We have soils that are dry, not deserts, but they're still too dry. Soils that are mountains, but still too steep. So it turns out that out of this 1/8, all we have left is 1/4 of this 1/8. So that turns into 1/32. So let's cut it. And all that's left right now is this little bit of the Earth. Can we grow food on all of this? Well, that's a trick question, because this right here, that is the center of the Earth. So let me kind of cut what we have left to grow food on. And all that's left is this little thin little piece, 1/32 of the Earth, that we can grow food on. So we now know that soils are very, very important. Thank you very much, and have a good day. Hi, my name is Dave, and in our second video about soils, we're going to talk about erosion. The first one was Earth as an apple. This one is erosion, and if you can, anybody tell me what the definition of erosion is? I'll give you a second. Well, I'll tell you, it's the washing away by natural forces like water and wind. And soil erosion is the washing away of soil by water and wind. So what we've got right here is a little experiment. We've got grass on one side, and we've got bare soil on the other. And we're going to try to show you what erosion really is. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab my bucket, and I'm going to make it rain on the grass side. Ready? Okay, it's raining. Whoop, I better catch it. Okay. So that's that side. So now what I'm going to do is get on the other side, and I'm going to make it rain on the dirt side. Bare soil. Ready? Whoa. Now this is what I think is amazing. Look at this. What is the difference? Why is this one dirty and why is this one clean? I'll give you a second. Check that out. What do you see? Again, look how dirty this is and how clean this is. Well, what you see here is the sediment that was produced by erosion. The water hit this side, nothing stopped the rain, and the dirt and the soil came right off and into this cup. Now, what's the difference? What we have over here? What do you see right here? Well, this is grass. And what does grass have that grows in the soil? Roots. So what we have is the grass is stopping that raindrop from hitting the soil, and the roots are holding that soil real tight. So that is how you control erosion, by having stuff growing on the soil surface. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a good day. Hi everybody, my name's Dave, and I'm going to be your soil presenter for the third time. And I have my family here. and they're going to participate, and maybe you can hear their questions, and that might help you understand what we're going to talk about. And the topic today is, what is soil? So can we say again, anybody here know what soil is? Yes.
It's sand, silt, and clay.
It's sand, silt, and clay. That's exactly right. So when we're talking about technical soils definition, we're talking about particle size. So the largest particle size is sand, and you've all seen sand, and you can see the individual particles. So sand is the largest particle in the soil. I might mention, if you see rocks, in this ruler right here, anything larger than 2 millimeters, which is the end of the ruler to my fingernail, anything larger than that is just rocks, not part of soil. Of course, it's in the soil, but technically it's not part of the definition of soil. So now that you know the biggest particle, the smallest particle is clay, and you've all played with clay before. That's very soft, but this is a little chunk of modeling clay. But in this little chunk of modeling clay, there are billions and billions and trillions of individual clay particles. So clay is the smallest particle. Now the silt, so it's sand, silt, and clay. I can't show you what silt is, but I can demonstrate it. This is talcum powder, and if you put it on your hands, here, put your hand out, and put it between your fingers, and go like this, and go like this, Donna. And it feels really soft. That silt is filling in the voids of your fingerprints. So that's what silt is. So sand, silt, and clay. And I want to mention another kind of soil that has no sand, silt, and clay, and it's called organic soil. And I wish I could get this open. And organic soil is just decomposed organic matter in the bottom of a wetland for 12,000 years after the glaciers left. And it's got a lot of organic matter because you can see how it stains your fingers. Go ahead.
What's organic matter?
Organic matter is dead organisms, plants, animals that have died and decomposed in the bottom of a wetland or wet soils, and they just keep decomposing. Decomposing organic matter turns soils black. That's why organic soils are very, very black. So now we know that, sand, silt, and clay, but here's a little thing that is a product. This is called a sedimentator, and you can see that the sands and the rocks, or the rocks and some of the sand has settled, and then you see here is the sand, and you see a little bit of silt, and the clay is still in suspension. So this is how you can tell the difference between the rocks, sand, silt, and clay. Now I made my own, which is something that I'd like you to do, and just take soil and put it in a thing. Now the clays are still in here, but you can barely see some of the clay and some of the silt, and here's the sand down in here. So another part of soils is color. So now we know that soil is sand, silt, and clay. So when North America was discovered, probably by the Vikings, there were two major vegetative cover types on the country: the forest and soil, or forest and prairie. So let's take forest. Most of the biomass of a tree is above ground. 2/3 is above, 1/3 is below. And are they thin, fibrous root systems? No, they're big, thick brace roots. So there's not a lot of decomposition in forest soils. So I'm going to show you a forest soil, and see, it's kind of brown. And I'm going to, right here, I'm going to tell you, now right about here is the bottom of the topsoil. And you see how it gets lighter and lighter brown, lighter and brown. Now the opposite of the forest soil is a prairie soil. Now what's the difference? Go ahead.
Why does it get lighter?
Well, because the organic matter tends to stay up on the top, only in the top, and this is called subsoil. So it's all organic matter usually is in the surface. So a prairie plant, where's most of the biomass of a prairie plant? Above ground or below? It's below, because it's huge root systems, 10 or 15 feet down, and they're thin, fibrous root systems. So the point is, in a prairie, you have a lot of decomposition, 12 to 13,000 years of decomposition, and all of a sudden what that does is it makes soil black. So this is a prairie soil. Now I'm going to try to get to the bottom of the topsoil, and it's about right here. And then this is probably the part, maybe this could be part of it too, but you can see the difference. Let me show you the difference between a forest soil and a prairie soil. So the forest soil is on the left. No, the prairie soil is on the left and the forest soil is on the right. Color is a very important part of identifying soil. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much and have a good day. Hi everyone, this is Dave again for our fourth video on soils. And this really is a soil property, and I'm doing this because there was an article in the Chicago Tribune, a very lengthy, in-depth article in the Chicago Tribune about flooding outside the floodplain. So let me explain. So when you have a river and a river's floodplain, the river is the floodway. And then when the river floods, as far as it goes, that's the floodplain. And what's happening is now we're flooding in areas outside the floodplain, and I know why. I must tell you why. Is because I work with USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service, and I was partnered with the McHenry Lake County Soil and Water Conservation District. Spring Duffy was an excellent programmer for a program called Geographical Information Systems, and to make so that's called GIS. So we were able to click on different geographical layers. And over the 30 years I was in the office, every day someone would come in, my basement's flooded, and we would look, and they're in hydric soils. So let me explain. So soils are in 6 drainage classes. There's very poorly drained, somewhat poorly, moderately well, well drained, and excessively well drained. Now you'll look, and I have these in red. Well, they are hydric. Can you tell me what the word hydric means? What does it imply, hydric? It implies water. So here's a little schematic I did. The solid line is the soil surface, and the dotted line is the water table, seasonal high water table. So the very poorly drained hydric soils had water developed on top of it. The soils were actually underwater. Very poorly drained soils were soils where the water table was at the soil surface. So then you come up a little bit and you get somewhat poorly drained where the water table is 1 to 3 foot below the surface, and moderately well is 2 to 4, and then well drained is 6 foot below, the water table is 6 foot below the soil surface. And the reason this is important, it's because when people came and said that their houses were flooded, they were in very poorly or poorly drained soils. These, for 10,000 years, these soils were developed underwater. So when we drain them artificially with a ditch or a tile, they artificially drain that water table down. Well, the minute that drainage system starts to fail, that water table comes back up where it always wanted to be for the last 12,000 years. So that's what I'm saying, is that we have billions of acres of hydric soils outside the floodplain. So now in the middle of summer, a hydric soil's water table is going to be way down there. But in the wet of the year, spring, all winter, that water table is going to be up. And when it rains a lot, there's no place for that water to go. So it must go into your basement. And if it goes into your basement, it's problems. If anybody out there has 3 or 4 septics, 3 or 4 sump pumps, even 1 sump pump, you're in an area that's like this. So if you dig a 6-foot basement and somewhat poorly, you might have to drain between 3 and 5 feet of water. If you dig a 6-foot basement in hydric soils, you got to drain 6 feet. If you dig a 6-foot basement in a well drain, you don't have to drain a thing. So my hypothesis is that the flooding we're seeing now with these incredible rains are in hydric soils. And I have to say that I had a rain gauge my entire life. And when I moved to McHenry County in 1980, it would rain 1/10, 2/10, 3/10. A big rain would be a 1/2 tenth or 5/10. Now I get 3 inches of rain every storm, 1 inch, 1.5 inches every storm. So that's my hypothesis. So what I'd like you to do is to go to your local soil and water conservation district, find out what soil your house is on, and figure out what drainage class it is. It's a table, I can't remember what table in the soil survey, but there's a table that references water table. Thank you very much.